All right, it is a beautiful spring day here in the Northwest, and the conditions are finally looking perfect to give this bike the proper spin it has deserved. We are on the Pivot Shadowcat. It's got 140 millimeters rear travel, 160 in the front, 27.5 wheels, which is going to be real fun. This is basically a kind of do-it-all mountain bike for those that are looking for a little bit more playful experience, less racy, more jibby, more agility and fast acceleration. Yeah, just a cool little bike. This is like, I swear it's got to be close to, or if not easily, the best or the lightest bike we've ever had on test. It is just so light. And I'm pretty sure I've never had a 27.5 inch wheel bike on review that had carbon wheels, but man, you take those little wheels off the bike and they are just like paper light. It's crazy. And of course, we just have this really cool XTR build. You've got the Fox 36 up front and delivering a little bit of extra stability in this package, but still, my God, keeping things lightweight. And then DPS rear shock. This bike is just like, it kind of reminds me of just how lightweight bikes were when they were 26 inch. I mean, it feels like it's almost like, I don't know if bikes have gotten lighter overall or not, but this bike just feels like what I remember like old 26 inch XC bikes like weighing. And you do feel the lack of weight, and those 27.5 wheels just like kind of accelerate. Just feels like it's easy bike to get going. It's funny how just changing your bike on really starts to push you towards riding a certain way. I've found that to be such a truth through all these bike reviews, is just, you know, changing the style of bike you're on absolutely has an effect on the style you ride. Also, like, so easy to just cut around stuff uphill. I feel like with 29 inch wheels, I usually get kind of a little bit more balled up back there, but you almost feel like the trail is wider with these little wheels. And this bike also has a pretty tight head tube angle, just under 66 degrees. And then beyond the head tube, it's got real short 430 millimeter chainstay, which feels very on brand to Pivot, having a tight rear end behind you. But with this bike, it just feels like it's a little extra accentuated. Like, wow, that thing is just, it's a real tight package back there. There's zero like losing track of your rear wheel with this bike. Yeah, climbing that rear linkage, these Pivot bikes are just like startlingly supple off the top. Come into like a nice mid-stroke and then just seem to keep kind of ramping up towards the end to prevent any sort of bottom out. And but I just love how supple they are off the top. It is just like such a great feeling to dive into the first, what, 20-30% of the travel like that. But with the kind of magic of the DW link, as soon as you put tension through the chain, you're getting a lot of pedal support. Really quickly forms like a pedal platform for you to drive against. And really all the pivots I've ever been on, you can be in the saddle, you can hop forward, out of the saddle. Wow, so easy to get around those corners. And the bike still just has that very same distinct hardcore anti-squat feel. This bike has like a pretty moderate seat angle, 76 degrees. So not as steep feeling as a lot of the more enduro designed bikes. This bike definitely has a little bit more slack seat position, which feels just about right on this like lower angle climb, call it like 6% grade. However, this is definitely one of those bikes where I feel like I miss those like the more Firebird seat angle feel for when things get super steep. Just after riding a bunch of like enduro bikes, this seat angle feels distinctly slacker. Your weight's more over the rear, easier to pop the front end up for wheelies and whipping that rear end around stuff because your weight's a little bit more rear biased. Man, I gotta say, with these like Dissector tires, super lightweight carbon Reynolds wheels, this thing just feels like it's giving me like a free extra 50 watts today uphill. Feels so good. And this thing feels so lightweight up this climb. Really excited to throw this thing around on the downhill. Oh yeah, we're at the top of the mountain. It's gonna be the good part now. Woo! Yeah, this thing is so fun when you go to pull it up. Oh my gosh. I don't know if that's like, how much of that's just raw weight, how much of that is the kinematics, you know, ramping up. But oh man, so easy to like get out here in front of the front end too. Just loves these like bike parky berms. Yeah, this thing definitely feels quite nimble. Pretty wild. This bike actually feels so good on this stuff. Wow. Yeah, ate up that chunk I just threw at it. That rear end is certainly very soft for being 140. And these doubles sometimes are hard to pull for. Not ever gonna be a problem with this bike. Such like a lightweight, kind of jumpy feeling spirit on this thing. Feels very predictable on the berms. Really like that. Like you can almost be halfway through a berm. Oh man, so poppy. Halfway through a berm and change direction with this thing. And you know, on this nicely supported terrain today, it feels quite stable too. I know on some trails I've had this bike on, it doesn't feel like incredibly stable when you're comparing it to a big 29er. Oh man, I have a good feeling about the Shadowcat on this trail. Wow, yeah, once again, I'm like halfway through a corner and I can almost like pump it, readjust, like things I'm not really feeling like I'm doing with the 29ers. Really a cool feeling. This section just super easy to pump this little bike through. It's crazy. I'm like not going straight anywhere. It's just so easy to kind of course correct. And you know, I feel pretty safe. Even though I have little smaller wheels. Yeah, I wonder like how much shorter riders are gonna love a bike like this when they're, you know, if you get too short, that 29er can really come up through your legs too much. And even at right around 6 foot tall, this bike feels really good. Oh man, yep, just rocketing forward with the amount of like kinematics, keeping that rear end up while pedaling. Super solid pedal platform. And this rear suspension curve is so soft off the top. This thing almost is giving like a quality of ride of a 29er right now. Also just love how you're really encouraged to kind of throw the bike around when you're in the air. Just because the thing is so lightweight that you're just kind of called to do it. Huge kind of compressions back there. And dude, this bike just totally ate that up. Woo! It is fun. Like, this has to be like one of the best hopping bikes I've been on, because it's got that leverage curve you can push into, but it also just it's so darn lightweight. It's a darn lightweight. You know, I'm a little bit blown away right now because I've been riding my Firebird a lot here lately, and it's really, wow, I'm getting low in that berm, holy crap. Riding the Firebird here a lot lately, and it just like feels like the right bike for this stuff, but then you get on something that's far more nimble and has me second guessing that. Oh my God. It just feels like this bike makes berms feel like they're bigger today. You know, like it's not too mucky, traction's not at a premium, so you don't need the 29er, but something about the different lean angle of these little wheels just really makes it feel like the berms are literally bigger. Just making the trail feel a little bit more like a pump track. Pump some manuals, and man, I just feel like, yeah, the ability to kind of wind up on corners for me, the pop, wow, super fun. This feels like there's so much room to kind of lean the bike over. And maybe it goes without saying, but this bike also just kind of definitely giving me that pivot around my hips feeling today. A little bit less trusting of that 27.5 here in this dry gravel, but you know, I'm a little bit taken aback by just how soft this thing feels today. Wow, yeah, easier to get up on that wall ride too. Definitely easier to pitch this bike over, right? In like any circumstance. I rode a 27.5 bike a couple years ago, but it's been just a while. I also have a pretty good feeling about this trail. Some kind of deep corners through here. Oh my God, yeah, there's just, it's 100% just like easier to get around real nice bermy corners with this bike than the bigger wheels. Pretty crazy. You just feel like it's easier to get the bars to drop down for you. It's also, probably goes without saying, but with that little chainstay on this bike, just super easy to pull the front end back into a manual. Oh man, it's just so fun to just kind of load those tires up. Such a good feeling. My biggest takeaway today is just how plush this bike remains, despite having the smaller wheels. And just like how easy this bike is to kind of maneuver around stuff. Another small favorite of this bike is these XTR brakes. 4-piston, only got 180 rotors, but man, they got some bite still. Keeps the bike light, but you can still shut stuff down so fast, just so impressive. So who's this bike for? This bike would be awesome for just like a shorter rider that really wouldn't want to be on a, you know, big wheel bike, but also people that are just really looking to put pumping and agility at a premium on terrain that isn't quite as steep uphill or downhill. I think this is just like such an incredible all-around bike that, you know, really isn't focused on speed, but just retains so much liveliness. Pumping really does make you feel alive. And it's kind of interesting because I really do end up doing stuff so much differently than if I was on a different bike. Like flicking that front end around, flicking the rear end around, doing like just mid-corner adjustments, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. Woo! Got that front wheel to kind of squirt out for a second there. So if you enjoy these reviews, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. And for the full write-up, head on over to freehabmag.com.